The morning sun peeked through the curtains of a small cottage nestled by the woods. Mittens, the curious kitten with a fluffy white tail, sat on the windowsill, her blue eyes sparkling with wonder. Beside her was her brother Max, a playful orange tabby, swatting at a dangling piece of string. "What are you looking at, Mittens?" Max asked, tilting his head. "I heard a funny sound last night," Mittens replied. "It came from the old train yard. I'm sure it's something exciting." Max's ears perked up. "An adventure? Let's go!" Mittens hesitated. "Are you sure? It might be dangerous." Max grinned. "That's what makes it fun." "Ought." The kittens scampered off to the nearby train yard, their tiny paws pattering against the cobblestones. They crept through the tall grass, eyes wide with anticipation. In the middle of the yard stood an old, rusty train engine. Its lights flickered faintly, and a soft hum filled the air. "Wow, it's so big," Mittens whispered. "Let's climb up," Max declared, leaping onto the train step. As they explored the controls, Max's paw accidentally hit a lever. With a loud hiss, the train jolted forward. "Uh-oh," Mittens meowed, clutching the seat. "Uh-oh, this is amazing!" Max exclaimed, his tail wagging with excitement. The train began to move faster, chugging out of the yard and onto the open tracks. The kittens clung to the seats as the train picked up speed. Fields and trees zipped past them in a blur. "Max, do you even know how to stop this thing?" Mittens yelped. Max's eyes darted around the control panel. Maybe one of these buttons?" He pressed the big red button. Instead of stopping, the train's whistle blared loudly, startling a flock of birds. "That's not it!" Mittens cried. The train barreled toward a small village. People on the platform scattered as the runaway engine sped past. Mittens spotted a cow on the tracks ahead and gasped, "Max, do something!" Max frantically yanked the lever, causing the train to swerve onto a side track. The kitten sighed in relief as the cow moved safely from the distance. As the train roared into a tunnel, the lights flickered and went out. Mittens' fur bristled. "Max, I'm scared!" "Don't worry," Max said, puffing up his chest. "I'll figure it out." In the dim light, Max spotted a lever marked "Emergency Stop." He stretched up and pulled it with all his might. The train screeched and sparks flew as it began to slow. Finally, it came to a halt just outside the tunnel. The kittens tumbled off the train, their tiny hearts pounding. As they sat catching their breath, an older cat in a conductor's hat appeared. "You two have been on quite the adventure," he said, chuckling. Mittens hung her head. "We're sorry. We didn't mean to cause trouble." Max nodded. "We just wanted to explore." The conductor smiled. "Curiosity is good, but always remember to be careful. Trains aren't toys." The kittens nodded solemnly. Back home, they curled up in their cozy bed, exhausted but happy. Mittens purred. "That was scary, but kind of fun." Max grinned. "Next time, let's stick to adventures that don't involve moving trains." As they drifted off to sleep, the morning sunlight warmed their fur, readying them for the next, hopefully safer, adventure.
The warm afternoon sunlight streams through the windows, bathing the cozy kitchen in a golden glow. It was a lazy, sunny afternoon, the kind where nothing much happens. Unless you're Whiskers and Snowball, two adorable kittens with a knack for turning the simplest days into grand adventures. Whiskers, a tiny tabby with an ever-wiggling nose, sits on the kitchen counter, his eyes wide with curiosity. Snowball, a fluffy white ball of fur, lounges on the floor, watching their human assemble an ice cream sundae that looks like it came straight out of a candy store. Whiskers was the daring one, always chasing off to the next big adventure, whether it was a fluttering curtain or a shiny spoon. Snowball, on the other hand, was more practical. But even she couldn't resist the sweet, sugary smell wafting from the towering sundae their human was building. The sundae is finally complete, a mountain of ice cream scoops drizzled with chocolate syrup, sprinkled with colorful candies, and crowned with a bright red cherry. Whisker's eyes sparkled. To him, it wasn't just dessert, it was a treasure waiting to be explored. With a quick glance at Snowball, who shook her head in warning, Whiskers leapt onto the counter for a closer look. Whiskers inches closer, his tiny paws silent on the counter. He sniffs the whipped cream topping, the chocolate syrup, and oh, that cherry looks too good to ignore. But just as Whiskers reached out his paw to poke the cherry, disaster struck. His back paw slipped on a stray sprinkle and cue dramatic slow motion as Whiskers topples forward, paws flailing, straight into the sundae. The room erupts in chaos. Ice cream splatters everywhere, on the counter, the floor, and even Snowball, who lets out a tiny squeak of protest. Snowball could hardly believe her eyes. Whiskers, now covered in whipped cream and chocolate syrup, looked more like a dessert than a kitten. Whiskers blinks, a cherry perched precariously on his head. He tries to lick the ice cream off his nose, but it only makes things messier. Whiskers, you've done it again. Their human rushes over, a mix of shock and amusement on their face. The sundae was a goner, but the sight of Whiskers sitting in the middle of the mess was just too funny to be mad about. Snowball carefully tiptoes around the mess and sits beside Whiskers. You're sticky and covered in chocolate, but you're still my brother. Let's fix this together. The kittens nudge the remaining sundae pieces into a pile, their humans snapping photos and laughing at their teamwork. In that moment, Whiskers realized something important. Maybe adventures were better when you had a friend to share them with, sticky messes and all. After a warm bath, which Whiskers protested loudly, the kittens curl up on the couch, clean and fluffy once more. The sundae may have been a disaster, but the kittens had a blast. Whiskers learned to be a bit more careful, or so he said. Snowball? She knew better. Tomorrow would bring another adventure and she'd be ready. The human sets down 2 tiny bowls of plain vanilla ice cream as a treat for the kittens. Whiskers licks his bowl happily, this time staying safely on the floor. And so, the day ended with full tummies, clean fur, and a new story to purr about. After all, life with Whiskers and Snowball was never boring.